Hey, Ross, I got
Yeah.
some complaints last week. What happened to our song? What happened to our theme song? That's the best part of the podcast. Is our
The AI music is a little.
You can turn it off after the song.
No, it's great.
Gamble up, take the risk, roll the dice. Strategy and guts gonna change your life. Poker chips and parlays, the games are set. Adam and ODB, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Welcome, everybody, to Gamble Up Podcast, episode 21. It is August 11th, 2026. I'm your host, A. Schwartz, alongside other hosts, David Baker in Vegas. How are you, David?
Doing good. Doing good. Excited for this show.
It'll be a lot of fun. Our producer, Roscoe P. Coltrane, here in Vancouver as well. Roscoe, how are you?
What up?
What up? And our super special podcast co-host from White Rock, BC, on Zero Avenue, Mr. Greg FBT Mueller. Mules, welcome to the podcast, sir.
Thanks for having me.
You're a little calm. You're,
FBT's been on the podcast circuit.
yeah, man.
He's ready to get back to his normal life of golfing, working out, and on the skates.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't worry, FBT. Your poker journey is almost complete. You can get back to your normal life of disregarding poker for 10 and a half months.
You got to be the first guy to go to the final table of the World Series of Poker main event, cash for a whole bunch of money, and fly to Smithers, BC directly after. Like, that's never happened, for sure.
And it's funny too. Talkett says to me, I think he said to Scotty. Scotty said, Mules, Talkett says if you win this thing, you're not going to Smithers. And they always treat me really well. It's a celebrity golf tournament. They raise a lot of money for people, and I've gone twice. It's the third time I said I was going. So obviously, you guys know I'm a man of my word. And was it the thing I wanted to do was rush out of Vegas, fly home, grab my stuff, go straight to Smithers? No, but
but it's God's country. Like, it's beautiful up there. Is there a better place in the world? I mean, it's awesome.
It is awesome, and the guys are amazing, and it's always such a good time. And like I said, I committed to this a long time ago, and with me was Lofty and Bobby Rose. We're all kind of on the same plane, so not only would I be leaving one guy short, but two NHL legends short. So we sucked it up and went up there for 3 days, and it was a piss up, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah. I'm exhausted.
We'll get to a bunch of the poker stuff. We're going to talk about some fun stuff before that. You're a golf sicko now. I know we tried you and I've known you for 30 years now. Like, let's do that. So you and I and several others in Vancouver started playing Limit Hold'em in the mid to late 90s, right? I mean, I think you were just finishing your hockey career, and there was the main game. This might bore some people, but it's kind of fun to walk down memory lane. There was a Holiday Inn in Vancouver that had a casino in the basement, and they had 10-20 Limit Hold'em, and they had 4 games, and they were the best games you've ever seen in your life. It was the freest of money. Your graph was like this. You'd lost twice a month, maybe, if you ran really bad. Like, the games were incredible. And it wasn't just me and you, Mules. It was Terrence Chan started in those games.
Yeah.
John Kim, if anybody remembers John Kim. There's some other people too. Like, we had a bunch of guys.
I had 10%. I had 25% of John Kim this year in the World Series. I mean,
nice.
I bought a piece of them. So yeah,
that's great. But what do you remember about those games? Well, those were a lot of fun.
Yeah, I retired prematurely from hockey in '99. My mom passed away, and I just was done with it. And always loved poker, and kind of just every day with me and my German girlfriend back then, Nadine, who you remember. We would drive in, and I'd sit there, and I was all business.
No, stop! You were not all business. You were an asshole.
Because I wanted to win, and I truly thought there was actually a turning point when this changed. I thought that the best way to win was to be a bit of a dick and tilt play. Like, I remember specifically, there was one hand where where I had like a 4 or 5 of clubs, let's say, and I went bananas on the turn with nothing and hit the club. And, the guy was on, like, his ears were steaming. And I asked him, like, did I have you all the way or did I river you? And like, I figured the only way to make the money was to have everybody hate me. I could just, play real solid and just get all the money. And, I was not there because I didn't see anybody. Like, I wasn't there. Like, these guys aren't my friends. I'm not there to make friends. I'm there to win the money, and that's it. And the best way I could do to make money is to do that. And then what's the guy with the long rat tail? Kenny, legend in the poker world. And he saw me at the Horseshoe like 1 or 2 summers in, and he goes, FET, come here. And he called me aside and he goes, I know you're a good guy because we have mutual friends. And he goes, poker's a small world. You travel with guys. You're going to see guys on the road. He goes, you're a good enough player. You don't need to antagonize everybody to take the money. You can actually be friendly with them while taking their money and have a lot more fun in the process. And I was kind of a little bit skeptical. And he says, trust me. It's a small, poker world, and you'll be traveling a lot. You're going to be a successful player, and you're going to want to hang out with guys and stuff. I'm like, no, I don't want to hang out with them. I just want to win the money, and that's it. And he's like, no. Trust me. He was a veteran. And, from that point on, I was like, yeah, this guy's got a good point. And
I think that's funny because, that story sounds like it could have just happened last week for you. He'd just be like, oh, did I have you the whole way?
Well, that's juicing. Juicing's free, but that was like, it was different. Yeah, it was different for sure. And
those are great times. Great times. We made friends with Nadine. We didn't make friends with you. She's the nicest person on the planet. So we started talking to her, and then we found out you were a pretty good guy, even though you'd walk. It was so funny because, it's a 10-20 limit game. You buy 300, whatever it is. Mules goes to the cage and buys 4 racks of $5 chips and builds a fucking castle like this, and just is trying to be. You could tell though that he was trying.
That
to
was
be
an act.
Yeah,
it was an act. But I just thought it was the best way to get the chips, kind of, And Kenny did me a solid when he like randomly called me outside at the Horseshoe, and he kind of looked gangster, and and he was genuinely gave me wicked advice, and then I went to the River Rock for when they first had the 3060, and all the legends that you meet, Pierre and all the guys you meet along the way, and they're all good buddies kind of now, and
yeah, it was great. I want to ask you something I've never asked you. Back in your hockey career, what do you think? Obviously, you're played near the highest levels of hockey that you could. What do you think maybe kept you from getting to that next level? What was it about that in hockey?
I just I was a late bloomer, and I became better as I got older, and unfortunately in hockey, your peak is younger, kind of, right? And I just grew into my body and into my confidence, into my toughness, into myself. I was just a later bloomer, and in the hockey world, it's at an early age that these things happen, right? And I've never had the quick twitch muscles. Like, people see me on the golf course and they're like, "Oh, former hockey player, big man, you must smash it 350," and I'm like, "Nope." Try to hit it like 260 down the middle. I don't have my club head speed. My golf coach was excited like a year and a half ago. He goes, we walk into another golf coach's thing. He goes, "Mules hit 100 miles an hour on the driver club head speed." And Saunders, who's, the legend at Morgan Creek, he's the guy we were talking, like Moto's my coach. We're telling Saunders, Mules hit 100 miles an hour today. Saunders goes, "Congratulations, he's caught up to my 16-year-old Asian student."
Yeah,
female student. And I've just never had the fast twitch muscles. And for skating, it's always been my downfall, is just never the speed, and so that was probably what kept me from making it to the show.
We tried to get you on the golf course for 20 years and you just wouldn't do it. And it's awesome that you've found the bug, like David and all of us.
Well, I mean, since he quit poker, he had plenty of time to practice the golf. He was too busy making money and playing poker. So those that don't know, and probably most don't, Greg is I would say probably the first pro that I became friends with. And
Wow.
you're probably, I would say you're the first friend that I ever made in poker that wasn't from Houston. I don't know if you probably don't remember because I feel like you probably came up like a couple years before me, even though we kind of came up a little together. I don't know if you remember, but at my first year ever at Binions, our mutual buddy, Ray Henson, he brought me to Binions for the first time for the first World Series I ever did. And I remember him, I'm like, we're going to go to lunch with my friend, FBT, Greg Mueller. And I don't know, we piled in a car. It was like the three of us. I think everything was in the back seat. I think we had to sit like three up front. And I remember we just went to lunch and you were just like super nice and everything. And I was just kind of in awe of like this guy, because you got a bigger than life stature about you. I mean, I'm sure like I'm sure you've heard that before or whatever. And that's kind of, some of the endearing qualities of you is you've got like a bigger than life stature, but you always are very nice to everybody. So, I mean, like when we came in, we became like friends and I started talking to you a little bit and it was kind of, you were kind of a big part of kind of my coming up in poker. And I don't know if I've ever really even told you that, but, I was at both your bracelets when you won them in, was it 9 or 10? 2009 or 10 when you won your two bracelets?
9. What a picture.
9.
Love it.
There's a picture of me and Nicole at your final table.
Love that.
Wearing the FBT shirts and the shadow. We were happy to represent on the rail. But I remember, Nicole and I, one of our first times I ever brought her around poker was your second final table, the 10K limit hold'em. She didn't know much about poker at all. We had just kind of started dating and I brought her to your final table. And this was back where you used to have like these final tables, but then there was like stairs up and there was a balcony that overlooked it. And I was sitting up there and I was with your friend, Timmy, who was there and some other people and we were watching. And Nicole didn't know anything about poker at the time. And she's sitting there and she's like dissecting like tells from Danny, Alai and Chad Brown. And she's like, oh, this guy does this when he doesn't have a watch. And she was like, she just picked it up immediately. And, we were just like, sweating you and whatever. You were one of the first poker people she ever met. And you were one of my first poker people, that I met. So just wanted to kind of give it a side story and tell you like that you've had a very meaningful part in my life. And, we've been friends the whole time. I would say, you don't really do like list, but if like my top 10 friends in poker, like you've been around forever and I would put you up there like with any of them. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of say that. And that's kind of where the genesis of me going and sweating. Cause a lot of times during the World Series, you don't really play as many World Series events. I don't really play cash during the summer. So maybe some of the newer people didn't realize that we were that close. But yeah, you've just always kind of been there for me and somebody that I've looked up to. So I was happy to be there for you and with you.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't remember the ride with Razor, but I remember we were on the party poker cruise together. And that was, Nadine was there with me. So we broke up in 06. So that must have been, 03, 04, 02. I don't even remember, but that's when I had met you and your ex-wife. And we were both playing. I think it was a limit hold'em tournament.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, 10K
and,
limit hold'em.
Yeah, and we had both made it through day one, and you had, I wouldn't say a ton more, but you had more chips. Let's just say I had 100. You might have had 120,000, and I remember we were kind of sitting out on the deck and relaxed, and we were both excited to make it through day one. And you said to me, "Hey, do you want to swap a couple percent or something?" And I was like, "But you have more chips." You're like, "It doesn't matter," And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. And I remember that actually very, very vividly. And it's true what you say about, back in the day, we hung out more because we both played more tournaments. There was smaller fields. So, we would go and break me, you and Razor, I call him Ray Henson and such. But now there's bigger fields. There's more events. Even if you bust out of one, you're going to jump into another one. And I'm in the cash games. And we haven't, and golf, we share a mutual. We always have fun. I try and get out with you at least once a year, and if there's time, more times, because we always have a good time golfing. And but yeah, I even remember when you won your Raz bracelet. I think it was against, was it Justin?
Yeah, Justin Liberta.
Yeah, Nicole, and I don't remember who she was with, texted me. She goes, FBT, we need you over here. Would you please come over? David's slipping a little bit. So I'm like, okay, I'm on it. I grabbed my bag. I don't remember what I was doing. I could have been playing cash or whatever. And I grabbed my bag and I came over and let's go, no DB, and brought the energy and boom, like, yeah.
Do you remember, were you there, my first bracelet? You remember that one?
I was actually just going to say it. It was
just give him the screw right there. I love it.
The whole time, Dave and I, that's actually an interesting one that you say that. The whole time, Dave and I were going, man, this would be so special if you and I could go heads up. You know, there was like 70 left and we're like, that'd be amazing. 28 left, final table. That'd be so awesome. Honestly, it sucked. And you might say, okay, obviously, because I came in second, but it was like Ray Henson was on your side. Nicole was standing where you were. Bucky was where I were. There was another gal in the corner there that was with me. And every time I won a pot, it was like, and every time you won a pot, it was like nobody, like Razor's not going to be like, let's go DB. You know, he didn't want, and Bucky doesn't want. It was like such a weird dynamic. There was no war there. There was no like, it was.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, you said with Kenny, I mean, some of these new age kids, like they grow up like battling each other and stuff. But I think you and I kind of came up, and when we came up, like the poker kind of exploded when we were coming up. So we kind of had to like kind of group together. And so we kind of like looked out for each other.
You were allies.
Yeah, you and I spent so much time together at Commerce. Like that's really where our friendship kind of, I think, really blossomed, because we spent a lot of time together at Commerce growing up playing poker. And so when we got, for those that don't know, in 2013, we got heads up in the 2,500 8 game. Yeah. And like you said, you know, the whole time we're like, be fun heads up. And I think now if that happens, like with a lot of the younger kids growing up, like they battle each other and whatever, it's you and I were kind of in the bunker together at Commerce so much. And I spent so much time rooting for you because you were on the scene before me. You had won those bracelets in 2009. You had seen me kind of get close a bunch of times and not really do it. So you wanted me to win a bracelet really bad, and I wanted you to win. So I had been rooting for you. So it wasn't like we got, then it's like, okay, yeah, let's battle. It was kind of like
so weird.
Our rails like didn't want to be disrespectful to the other person. We didn't want to be disrespectful to the other person. And even though I knew how bad you wanted it, I wanted it just as bad or more. And as bad as you knew I wanted it, you wanted it too. And so it was kind of like, you don't want to like make a comment, or you don't want to make a frustration comment, or you don't even want to make a happy, like fist pump or anything. And it was just kind of weird. But in the end, I took you down, and I will always have that over you. And so, yeah,
for sure.
It was great.
And
you
the
were
next
there for
one you
my,
won, I was at the final table.
Moment.
And then I was there for the next one that you won. I was at the final table as well. And I remember talking to you about it this summer, and you didn't even remember. And then I had to pull it up and show you, because I went right into the booth with Tuckman after that 15 Hold'em tournament, 1500. I think it was limit Hold'em, and you sort of went wire to wire, like you had a big stack. And but yeah, I had come in ninth in that one too, and I believe that was your second bracelet.
Yeah, that was my second one. So, yep.
Nice.
Yeah, and then you won you have 4 now, Davey, or 3?
Yeah, I have 4. How many do you have? 3?
The seniors, and then the Raz, and then the seniors, right?
Yeah, you have 3. No, I didn't mean that as a jab. I'll be honest. I trade them for a final table. That's for sure. A main event final table. You got to live all of our dreams. I mean, obviously, like winning a bracelet, you start out and it's like, oh yeah, I want to, but I don't know. You know, I want to hear your experiences, but I got deep a couple times in the main in 2010 and 2012, and I haven't been deep again since. And I can honestly say that in 2010, I came in 17th. It was the most fun I've ever had playing poker. And I've won 4 bracelets. I won a WPT. I've been cash. I've done basically everything there is to do in in poker, except for final table, the main. And I can say that when I got close, it was the most fun that I had ever had. and what's your experience comparing final tabling that versus actually winning something? Because I think we're such competitors that we just want to win, but I feel like making the final table, that's like a win, and then it's something else after that. But like making the final table is like, it's like a win. I mean, so I don't know. How do you compare this experience to actually winning events?
Yeah, spot on, Davey. I mean, I said it in several interviews where I've been on Poker After Dark. I've been in Poker Night in America several times with you. I remember I was, again, instrumental in getting you on the first Poker Night in America, talking to Todd Anderson. And, we've had a lot of fun, 3 bracelets. Like, I've had a lot of fun poker moments. And this dwarfs all of them, and it's not even close to me. And, maybe it's because it's been a few years since I won the horse bracelet, but to me, this was completely from another planet. And a big part of it had to do with my insane rail that made the journey. It's so undescribable. The love, the support, the fun, like everybody was on cloud 9. Like I said it many times, it felt like a team game. Like I hit the jack on the hand early on day 2 of the final table. And the minute that jack came out in the window, my rail went bananas. Like it was so much fun. And like you said, like normally when I bust out in second or in third, or, I've got a few seconds and a few thirds, and I'm quite disappointed. This, I have not really spent more than 30 seconds dissecting my bust out hand because I don't care. Like I was so
damn it, that ruins like 15 minutes of our show then.
No, we're going to go over it. Don't worry about that.
I was so low in chips. I truly felt like I won. I was the winner. And nothing to take away from Lucas, played amazing. He is the winner for sure. But I'm saying the money is massive. The fun, the love, the support. My heart was full. Like like you name it, anything to do with what somebody wants in the poker world, I got it. Other than taking that beautiful, bracelet along with the championship. But yeah, it was, to wrap it up, what you're saying, Davey, it was unbelievable. And if I could pick one more wicked experience, it would be the final table again and do it all over again.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you kind of felt like this was going to be the case, because I remember running into you after you had final tabled and I was cashing out and they were closing the World Series for the 3-week break. And I had just cashed out and I was about ready to go home. You were about ready to fly to Canada. And I saw you in the hallway, and me and Bucky had like a 30-minute conversation. And it felt like you already kind of knew that like you wanted to make this final table at any expense, because you knew the experience and the love that you were going to get was like more important than the money, anything. Was just that you knew that you were about to experience something that you probably will never get to experience again. And you wanted that experience in your life. Is that accurate?
I mean, yes, but I had no idea it would be this tremendous. Like I really did not. I could have never written the script that it would be this insane. Like, I mean, it was, I still can't even describe it. Just the euphoria that I felt while this was going on. And actually on day 1, I felt a little bit like, even though it was so amazing, I felt a little bit, like the very first hand I looked at a jack, I didn't want to see another jack because I didn't want,
you didn't want to end.
I didn't want to. I just started, and these guys are going bananas, and I don't want them to have to fly home or we're done, So I was like, please don't give me another jack. And it's funny because I couldn't really do much. The middling stacks, like we can get into strategy talk later if that's what you guys want to do and stuff. But people see me, they're like, man, he's real tight. Like obviously that's not my usual style, but just with ICM and with a bit of studying that I'd done and talking and all that, I had to play that certain way. But then when I came into day 2 of the final table, 7th out of 7, for the first time, I felt free of any weight. My rail had a full day of having fun. I'm shortest in chips now. So if I go out in 7th, well, so be it. There's no ICM pressure because I am the shortest stack. And I remember we were just about to start, and Bucky called me over and he goes, "Okay, just put the hoodie on." And I looked at Bucky. I go, "Bucky, you've been unbelievable. I got it from here." And he goes, "Whoa." I go, "I got it from here." And that's how I felt. And I picked up the King Jack and sailed it in. And I was the hand before that. I think I had ace 6 in the cutoff, and I sailed it in, and I picked up an ace 9. Like I was relaxed now. And now I was going to play the way I know how to play. And you know, at the same time, while playing smart and realizing that if you tell me you're 7th right now with the amount of money that you're going to ladder up to 3rd place, I mean, where can I sign the dotted line? Like, truthfully, you know, and
not only ladder up, but get another 3 hours of like, you know, like a heroin fix, like another, like, yeah, I mean, you're basically just on like a 3-hour high. Like, I don't know, just speaking as somebody who's known you for this long and also having been there, not in this environment, but in different things, it's like the money's one thing, but you just want to keep that high of being in there so that you can just keep living this dream and having people chant FBT, 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 which, you know, was happening, you know, for hours and hours and hours. Anybody who watched any of the coverage, you know, will know that.
Yeah, no, for absolutely. It was a dream that still has not really ended, kind of, you know, just with because I haven't had one day of today was ish, and it wasn't even really where I just had like I almost want to just go to a lake, turn my phone off, which I know we know I can't do because I'm fully addicted, but like just sit there and just, you know, be on a boat and have a few Coronas and just kind of take in what's happened, because it's still really hasn't sunken in all, you know, I'm still on that adrenaline rush, if you may, you know.
Before we get on to the poker stuff, I just want to quickly finish up about your rail. And I mean, fantastic. You know, watching it from home, it was great. We were screaming and yelling here. You had an amazing rail. I think you mentioned Rick Taka was on it, so Travis Green, some NHL legends for sure. But two guys that I want to quickly touch on are, first off, Sean Buchanan. Bucky from Abbotsford here in the Lower Mainland is legit one of the nicest guys, not just in poker, in life, that you'll ever meet. And he's such a great human, and that's why you guys have been friends for so long. But he's also an excellent poker player. And maybe give us a bit of a look into what you were talking about with Bucky, because obviously he's going to be the guy you're going to go to. I'm sure you had options as far as, you know, going and getting coaching or whatever, and maybe some people came to you, but it's pretty nice when your best pal is also a wizard.
Yeah, it was, and it's funny because Bucky and I had. It's hard to get into with Bucky. He is, like you said, the nicest. His heart is. I mean, after it all happened on the Sunday, after I left and was flying to Smith, or on the Wednesdays flying to Smithers, he texted me in his room. He was, "I'm just laying here bawling, just taking it all in," you know, because he was with me neck and neck the whole way. And you know, I even gave him an extra little percentage. We always, you know, auto swap and the rest of it, but I gave him an extra percentage for before, like after day 7. I said, "Bucky, you've been unreal." Just handed him an extra percent, and he is such a caring guy that has my back no matter what. And he gave me a bit of tough love before the main event. He truly did. And we kind of got into where I was like irritated by him. Like, it's hard to be irritated at Bucky. And it was, you know, just, I was like, okay, I get it. Like, lay off for fuck's sake. You know, like it was a bit much. And I don't think he intentionally lit the fire, but he was just telling me what, you know, and giving me quote unquote tough love. And then after like day 4, day 5, he legitimately said, "Okay, here's what I'll do. Greg, I'll quit playing any events." There's still a ton of events going on by this point. I'll come and rail you and give you any piece of advice I can, which is like, as soon as a new player would join my table, he'd call me over and he'd be like, "Okay, here's the story with this guy. He's a mid-stakes grinder, hasn't won too much. You could probably put some pressure on him. He's, you know, the pay jump's going to mean a lot to him." Or he'll say, "This guy doesn't give a fuck about money. He wants to," you know, like, and he said he will do all that for me. If I make him one promise, don't matter if I bust making a bluff or a check raise or go out with my read. He trusts all my instincts in the game. He just said, the one thing I don't want you to do is to get frustrated or to want to go golfing or to want to play cash games or go shoot craps and just kind of, give up. And I said, all right, I'm going to promise that I will, if you take the rest of the time to help me out and just he can see if my demeanor's changing or I'm slipping or I'm, he can tell. He calls me up, hey, put the hoodie back on. Let's go. Shades, war zone here. Tis a war zone. Never mind. You're playing for this is the most important few hands of your poker life. Let's go. Like he'd call me, he'd tell me, no texting anybody else. You text me and that's it. And then one time I was texting somebody for back home and he says, I see you texting, but I don't see any bubbles. What's going on? Who you texting? Like he was a hard ass on the rail, but he, just had nothing. He stayed over here basically for 2 weeks and he found programs for me that he thought I would understand, be able to relate to. And he'd scroll through all the hands on day 7 and day 8 and pick out hands that he thought I might want to watch, or we could pick up some tells and just, we ran certain charts with, and surprisingly, man, 12 bigs with 2 shorter stacks in front of you. You're under the gun with, ace 9 suited. What's your play? And I'd be like, well, all in. Boom, alert would come up. Blunder alert. Yeah, he was awesome, and he is awesome, and he's a great friend, my very best poker friend, and just an, like you said, an awesome human, and one that's amazing in poker that I didn't have to go, yeah, of course my phone blew up with legends of the game that said that they could help me, win this thing or whatever. And I just passed on all of them and said, I got Bucky, and Bucky and I made it this far, and he's my guy. So
I want to talk to you about coaching and things, but before we go into that aspect, I just want to, for those who don't, might be new to Greg or FBT or to poker. Some people watch this are more football oriented and just kind of get the poker stuff. And some people are a little bit poker, but may not know you personally. Greg's been a fixture in poker for 25 years, but his last probably 5+ years, he's kind of been sporadic around. He kind of lost a little bit of the love for the game. He would show up to World Series tournaments, the things that he used to love the most in the poker world. He used to always come and play them. The last 5 years, he kind of late regs. It's kind of a double or bust in the first 30 minutes, first hand, first hour. And, a lot of his closer friends, I've had discussions with him. Bucky, who is by far his best friend and the guy closest to him and also has the most invested in you. He had that tough love conversation before the World Series. So a lot of you guys might just think like, yeah, this is just a guy who's paid his dues and he got to the spot. He did pay his dues, but he's kind of taken the last 5 years kind of for granted in poker, at least poker tournaments. And so those who kind of wondering what this story means and about Bucky giving him tough love, he kind of threw in the towel. I think you kind of probably thought your tournament days were behind you, and yeah, you'll probably lay reg and run up a stack in a couple of things, and you might final table something. You might even get a win somewhere in like the 10K stud because you ran hot for a day and a half. But the days of grinding for 5, 6, 7 days, like that was over for you. Until this Bucky conversation happened. And so a lot of people might just see, oh yeah, Greg, that just happens. Like pros who kind of been around for a while, they, eventually they just hit their stride and they run good for a few days. That's not necessarily your story. You basically just kind of went through the motions for the last, 5, 6, 7 years, however long. And this was kind of a chance, you kind of started a little bit different at the start of this main event and decided, you know what, I'm not going to go through the motions this one. And you still might have like busted in the first 2 hours, and it might have, everybody would have been like, yeah, there's FBT just going through the motions again. And you could have thought to yourself, no, I really didn't go through the motions this time. But we would all thought that because that's just what you've done. So yeah, I just wanted to give a little background to some people who might not have known this part.
No, you're right. And I was like, it got intense to where I said to Bucky, there's a particular poker player. We don't need to mention the names. It's completely irrelevant. He's a very good poker player. had nothing to do with him. He's just a really good poker player that I said, yeah, ask Bucky, ask him how I played it. I nailed the guy's hand. And I said, oh, you got 2 8s, eh? I'm all in. And the guy called and I busted and I said, ask him about it. Like I had him perfect. I had the guy with the 8s read. And then he goes, yeah, that guy would tell me you can never swap with FPT again. What are you playing that hand in that position in that spot for? I'm like, well, it's not that bad. And he goes, it's horrible. And I'm like, and I said, okay, I'll tell you what, you bet on that guy versus me in the main event and we'll go up to 200K. And he goes, oh, I can find you plenty of action. I said, no, I don't want plenty of action. I want your money, Bucky, me versus player C. Who does further in the main event? We're cross booking. And he goes, well, I'm not doing that. I go, yeah, let's do it. Okay. You think that guy's great? No, me versus him, cross book, cap it at 100 or 200K. And it got like that. Like it was, I go, yeah, okay, motherfucker, me versus him, but I want you to pay. You think that I don't know what's going on? And he goes, I've told you before, I'll take me and you versus anybody. It's just that you're not trying. And I said, what do you mean I'm not trying? Like I never went in there not trying. He goes, yeah, but part of trying is getting there on time. Part of trying is putting in all the hours. It's not looking for a 7-8 of hearts to try and double up like Davey said. And then even if I did double up once, I'd want to double up again because doubling up once, yeah, you go into grind mode. Doubling up twice, okay, now I got a bit of a stack, you know? And yeah, and it was shortly thereafter, around the same time, I ran into Dave in one of the tournaments, and you even said to me, you go, Tizzle, once I'd just love you to call me before the World Series, before the series starts, and just tell me, hey, draft me this year. I'm gonna play tournaments and try because I know you can play when you want to. You just don't really want to. And I said, yeah, I've lost my, but this conversation with Bucky, I remember going to night golf at Shadow Creek, and for 2 or 3 days, I was drinking and having a blast and this and that. And I remember like sleeping a day and a half before the main event. I had a good talk with Bucky and I said, okay, Buck, I will, and again, like you said, Davey, I could have tried and busted in 2 hours and this would all be, nonsense. But I said, okay, you got a deal. I no matter what, I'm not, normally I'd be like, I'm kind of short in chips, and I'd call one of my buddies and be like, hey, get ready. We're shooting dice or we're going to sit in the sports booker. I said, and my buddy Triple I says to me, he goes, I got a good feeling this year, Tizzle, if you can get by day 2. And I said, why day 2? He goes, because day 2 is a day that is such a grind. You're nowhere near the money. You're nowhere near anything. But you got to grind to get through that day. And I said, really? He goes, yep. I think if you get through day 2 this year, and I did. And then he said it again on day 4. He said, because now you're in the money. Now you can say, well, I picked up my money, my check for doing it. So that's another tough day. But if you get through that, you're gonna go deep. And it's weird because I've had 2 day 5s in the main, and I knew myself once I hit day 5 this year, I was gonna make a run. And how deep I was gonna go, no clue. Because I do want to touch up on one more thing. When you play the main, everybody wants to win the main, but you all kind of just expect when is the bust gonna happen because you don't final table.
Yeah,
nobody final tables the main. So it's just like, whatever, when's it coming? But this time was different. Like I just believed and I was going and I just felt the coin. Like I never was all in for my tournament life until late on day 6. I had kings versus ace queen, and then twice on day 8 or once on day 7 and twice on day 8. And it just, I knew those queens would hold up against ace king. And yeah, it was a weird feeling, man. This nice. Year it was different.
Last guy on the rail I really want to talk about is the legend Scotty tickets. Because, when you hit that jack, the tarp came off and America saw too much, really, is what they ended up seeing. But, I think I've known Scotty even longer than I've known you and been through a lot together with him, have thousands of stories, and I know you do too. So I just want to, he is hilarious, and it was amazing to see him on your rail and bringing it in for you. My favorite Scotty story is, I think like in 2007, 2008, my brother Dan wins the BC Poker Championships for $410,000, wins the main event or something like that. And he looks at me and James Bunner, who was my business partner at the time, rest in peace. He says, what's going on now? And I go, well, me and Bunner are jumping on a flight to Hong Kong in like 5 hours at like 1 a.m. And he's like, and Scotty's standing there because we were all railing Dan. And he looks at Scotty and goes, okay, we're going with. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, go home, get your passports. And Dan's like, I'll pay for Scotty. We'll go. Scotty, you're on a free roll. We're going to Hong Kong, going to Macau to play poker. Remember, Macau was like the place to go to play poker for a while. When they just introduced it, it was like a place to go. So I'm sure you've heard this on Mules, but maybe everybody hasn't. But we go out to the airport and they literally buy the last 2 seats on this giant fucking 777. And Dan, of course, gets the good seat. And Scotty is stuck in the very last row. It goes like 2, 5, 2. Scotty's right in the middle of the 5. And there's like a crying baby beside him. I'm like 15 rows up, and I can just hear him tilting. And I'm like, oh, God. And Scotty hates flying, like hates it. He'll go to Vegas from Vancouver, because it's 2 hours. And he'll sit in the first row and stare at the wall. But he hates flying. So he gets on, and he doesn't know how far Hong Kong is. He has no clue how far it is, this flight to Hong Kong. So we get on and we pull away from the gate, and the captain comes on. He's like, okay, settle in for your 14-hour flight to Hong Kong. And I can hear him go, what? He has no clue. And he starts losing it. And like Scotty, you can see, is a big man, and he's in this little fucking tiny seat between parents and a baby, and he's losing his shit. He literally climbs over these people to the aisle and starts booking it up the aisle. And the stewardess, I can see her because she's on my side. She gets out of the jump seat and she starts walking towards him. And she's like, sir, go sit down. We've left. We pulled away. And he goes, no, pull the plane back. I'm getting off. And she's like, no, we can't do that. We've pulled away from the gate. We're official. We have to go. Go please sit in your seat. And he looks at her and he goes, no, you don't understand. Take this plane back to the terminal. Like, you know how he is, right? So she calls the captain, and the captain pulls the plane back, and, they got to find his luggage. And there's 500 people in this fucking plane. They can't take the guy off and not take his luggage. So it's like 3 hours delay, and people saw me talking to him. They hated me. And anyway, that was hilarious. He just refused to fly when he heard it was going to be 14 hours.
Scotty is a beauty, and I have so many stories that I unfortunately can't share here.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But when he gets going, if there's 20 of us, all of us with ADHD, he keeps us captivated. We're like, one more, Scotty, one more. He's a fantastic storyteller. He's a fantastic human, larger than life. And he's a great guy to have in your corner in all areas of life. And he's in fact the only guy that when we, as you know, I'm 6'5" and like the aisle. He's the only guy when I go to baseball games with, which we go to a lot of them, he gets the aisle. And he even smiles. He goes, right, Gregor, I got the aisle, right? And I'm like, yeah, you got the aisle, Turtle. I call him Turtle because he loves to drive and, do the things. And yeah, when he told me he had to put his dog down, unfortunately, which I'm sure you heard. And, for those of you that have pets like Davey does, 1 second. Sorry. Excuse me.
No problem.
Sorry.
DoorDash is delivered. I'm sure this is health food. Carl's Jr. is dropping off at FPTs right now.
Do we have a Carl's Jr. in Canada? I don't know. It's probably, I don't know. Whatever.
Sorry. It was actually my golf coach's dad just popped in to say hi, and he carried some of the FPT shirts back from Vegas for me.
Nice.
I told him 9 o'clock because I didn't think we'd be going this long. So it's all good. But
we thought it was DoorDash. We thought for sure you were ordering dinner.
No. And, Scotty, for those of you that don't know him, he's larger than life, has all the stories, and I have
he's the one who took his shirt off, and if you saw the broadcast, if not, you can find it. Just search Scotty Tickets on Twitter, and you'll see his big round belly, and he's like in tears, and he was amazing.
He actually wanted to, for the day, he was gonna take his shirt off and write FBT down his like F and then B and then T. But he wasn't sure if they were going to go for, on TV, having this big, large snake sitting on the rail. So, but,
he's the best.
He is a beauty, and he loves doing what we do. Yeah. So I was saying he had to put his dog down. So he was, he was a little sad, but he wasn't coming out. He usually makes a trip to Vegas, and he said, I can't come out this year. I have to be there with my dog, and it's her last legs. But once he found out I made the final table, he called me. He goes, Mules, I told Lulu, don't go anywhere yet. I got you when I get back, but I got to go down for this one. So yeah, Scotty's best.
I actually was texting him with her today. I told him to come by and kind
He
of pushed
told me
me
that.
aside when I was telling the story and finish it. But he got waylaid. He couldn't make it. But yeah, awesome. All right, so let's get on to the poker. We've had a bunch of fun. There's really just kind of one hand I want to ask you about before the final table, David. I don't know if you had any, but there's a hand, Mules, where you raise with jacks under the gun and you get flatted on the button, and the small blind calls as well. And the flop comes like 10-9-3 kind of thing. You got the jacks, you lead, button calls, small blind calls, and the turn is, I think it's a 6, so 7-8 gets there. Small blind checks, you check, and the button bets, and the small blind check raises all in, but not a lot. I think it was just a little bit. And you're like, holy mackerel, this tough spot here. The 2 jacks, like, what do I do? And a lot of people kind of like, I mean, I've got to be good still here, whatever, that kind of thing. And you fold the hand, and button has pocket tens. You flop top set. I thought that was sort of a key hand to get you to the final table. Probably give you some inspiration. My reads are on. I'm tight. Like, I got this.
Yeah, I actually completely forgot about the hand, even when you were saying it up until the end. And I'm like, what hand is he talking about? Because it's been such a blur.
Yeah.
But yeah, that wasn't day 8. It
Day
was
6,
on day 6. Yes. So I had the jacks, and the guy that check raised, what was he? Oh, he was like a teacher, and he had jack 10. So the flop was 10-7,
10-9-3.
10-9-3. Yes, and the turn was a 7?
6.
No, I think, yeah, okay. So anyways, so it went, what did I do on the flop again? I had bet small.
You bet. They both call.
Yes.
And you check to the button on the turn.
Yes, and he bet, and then the guy check raised all in, and I knew I had that guy beat. Like, I just knew I had him beat.
Small
and
blind.
then I was humming and hawing, and that's a tough spot because I don't know what the guy behind me is going to do. I have the guy in the small blind covered. I know I have him beat, but the way I think I bet pretty big on the flop was what it was. And the fact that the guy behind me called really let me believe, what can I beat here? Like ace 10?
Exactly.
I can't beat a bigger pair. What is he calling me? Now, he could have had queen jack, but I have a jack, so it makes it 2 jacks, makes it a bit difficult. Could have had king queen. I mean, those hands I'm still pretty vulnerable against, right? Like, if he has the jack queen or the king jack or the king queen, I'm very vulnerable against those hands. There is a chance the guy check raising me. He's not dead yet either. More than likely, this guy flopped a set. And that hand for sure I was like over the moves right at the end of day 6, I believe. And I was like, it was one of those hands where I made a big fold that gave me some momentum. I completely forgot about that hand. Adam, did I tell you about that hand, or was that on
You
TV?
did, yeah. Yeah,
That was a big confidence booster, that hand, and I got to see it, right? Because there was an all in. And
then day 8, you raise with queen jack, gags, and somebody else calls, and it comes 10-9-8. And you bet, you flop the joint, and you bet, and you got paid. I thought that was a big hand to get you through. Build you up.
That was a really weird hand because the guy that called, super nice guy. He was I'm going to call him, for lack of a better word, the biggest amateur left by a country mile. He was, again, I think he was a professor, a teacher, janitor. Like, he was something to do with the school. Really nice guy. And he had 2 5s. And I remember the board paired and the flush got there in the end, and I still was able to get 3 streets of small value. And, I assumed maybe he had jacks and overpair. He told me he had 5s and just didn't believe me. And yeah, I was really low heading into that hand, and was able to just get the bet call. And yeah, that was a very big hand for sure. Forgot about that one again too.
And then go ahead, Dave. Yeah.
No, I was just going to ask, my question. It's going to be more broader scale. Your bust down hand, the guy, Seskalani, I think is the name. The guy who got second busted you. He trapped you with kings, and you flopped bottom pair, and you called a big overbet shove on the river. I have multiple questions about this. First, the first thing being, you guys got to three-handed, and I feel like we all thought that the day was wrapping up. You got to three-handed,
Gosh.
you reached the finish line, and then they told you, wait, the race isn't over. You have to do more.
Yes.
And you might have lost some focus. And maybe if you come back and that hand happens the second hand of the day on day 3 of the main, that you may not make that call, but you kind of didn't have we all know, we've all run before. We've all been athletic in our careers. And, you run the race and you get to the finish line and you put your hands up and you run through the tape and they go, wait, you've got to start your engine. We miscounted. There's another half a mile left to run, and you can't quite gear it up. You lost, all your adrenaline had been gone. And I feel like that possibly happened, but then also, you had played a hand on day 1 where he had overbet and bluffed you. So take me through that decision in that spot. How much am I accurate in that you thought the day was over? And then also, how much did the hand that you got bluffed on day 1 play into the fact that he had similar sizing on that particular hand?
Yeah. Accurate on all the points, Davey. The first thing I did was yes. And even Jumalin's rail, they wanted the day to be over. We kind of just without, verbalizing it, we kind of wanted the old versus the young in the finals, kind of, and I think there was a lot of value in me making it to day 3, my rail alone,
100%. I think they screwed up massively especially because if you would have been the one that had Sescalane stack, I think they could safely play a few more hands, but your rail and your story and everybody that was there for you, basically the final story, and this doesn't take away from any of the other 9 people. Everybody had a very integral part in the show, but I felt like the whole show was predicated on Jumalan and his chip lead and his youngness and his raw pokerness, and you, the savvy ex-athlete who has the biggest rail there.
All the
and they
experience.
really screwed up by not guaranteeing that you and your rail were going to get to come back for a third day.
And the crazy thing is, everybody there was all the big wheels. I know them all. They all tried for it. But at the very top, I guess ESPN wanted more hands. They took a chance. And I think you tweeted it earlier. What if me and Sescalade and Jumalin all go all in and Jumalin just wins the tournament on that day? They don't even have a day 3.
Right.
Like,
exactly.
It could happen. And I think at that point, I have no complaints. They were amazing to me. They made, like, they were great. But yeah, why couldn't they have played highlights for 5 minutes or more interviews? Just if they needed to fill the gap, keep an extra few minutes, get us there the next day. And believe me, all the big wheels tried, but I guess somebody that didn't really understand and was just the time guy was like, oh, we got to keep playing. They didn't even tell me 5 or 10 minutes. I found out it was, 10 minutes as it turns out. But yeah, so to that point, I was even talking to them, pleading for the day to be over. The Jumalin rail was on tilt. They wanted the day over because I think they saw the value there too. Right. And, like you said, it was the adrenaline, boom, we're there. Let's go. We're done. And we're not done. Like it disrupted me for sure, but that's not an excuse. I have to be ready to go. And now to the hand itself. I mean, he played it great. He did exactly what he did when he bluffed, and he's not stupid. He watched that hand over and over again and set that hand up for that. And I was also aware that he was aware, that I was aware, that he was aware of what was going on. And I looked at him. There was no giving up. There was no, well, I've made it third, screw it. It wasn't like that. It was a matter of, I'm really short. They both have infinite number of chips. There is a chance he's bluffing here. And how high is that chance? Pretty high, in my opinion. And you might disagree and go, no, after he did what he did on day 2, he wouldn't have done it that way. But I knew he didn't have an ace, which he didn't have. He had the next best thing. He played it good. He trapped me and he overbet. And you know what? In hindsight, this is the first I've really dissected the hand. could have folded. I only lost the big blind plus another 2 million, which was not even another big blind. So I could have just packed up shop and put the pressure on from the button in the small blind, rejam and find other spots. But I looked at him and he did a good job of acting weak. Like he was kind of, bouncing his head a bit. And like, I looked at him for a while. I don't know, the hand might've seemed like 30 seconds on TV, but it was a good 2, 3, 4 minutes. Like I was, and my read just was, God, he could be bluffing here. And I called, and do I regret it? I mean, not really. Like, I really don't. I wish they would have stopped at 3. Do I blame that? Hell no. They were so kind and amazing to everybody. They treat us amazing. All the production, ESPN. It just was, it was, I think maybe more of like, I laddered up all I could do. I got to the top 3. At some point I'm going to have to gamble with both of these monster stacks. And I guess I picked that hand on the river to gamble with, and it didn't go my way.
Well, and the other thing is you never really had, I think you were third in chips once. So it's not like you had a chip lead and then came third, right?
No.
Like you were always battling to stay alive, try and find a spot and survive and make it another, few people, right? It wasn't like, and that would have been more disappointing, I think, right? Like if you have that chip lead and then all of a sudden it kind of goes south, it's a bit tougher to take.
100%. I was, if you would have told me, like I said, 7th out of 7th, you're going to ladder up and make 3.75 million. But you got to forfeit first or second. Crazy as it sounds for a competitor. Normally in any other event, I would say laddering up. Oh, I want the bracelet. But in this event, the money's just so like for when Gags busted, I had to process that one player just went out and I made 1 million US. Let me ask you this. If you take away the Tritons and the high rollers, where does the winner get 1 million US? Never mind moving up one position.
Yeah, I mean, I've played 25 years. I've played 1 million tournaments. I have one score that is equal to your pay jump.
Crazy, right, Dave? Yeah. And so, I don't think people understand that is exactly what ICM pressure is right there. And
in the biggest event, right? Like we talk about ICM pressure, and when you're in $1,000 tournament or a $500 tournament, and ICM says you should fold here, but your mistake is, I don't know, worth $40 or something, or 50, whatever, making the wrong decision. But yes, when you get put in this pressure cooker, the main event is like nothing else. And when you have ICM, when you have laddering, and you're put in this spot, you're a middle stack like you were for so long. The handcuffs are completely on you, especially when Jumalan's coached by Pads, who knows everything inside and out, and Jumalan's going to know what to do. He's going to just he's going to pretend to look at his cards and raise. That's what he's going to do.
And he can literally tell me, I'm bullying you here, FBT, or I'm bluffing you here. What are you going to do about it? And I'm going to say, well, Gags has 8 blinds and I have 14. Even if I get to 26 or 28, it doesn't do me anything because you got 150. But I have to outlast Gags. So you know what? Here you go. And that's just unfortunately a part of the game. And like you said, if this was a $1,000 buy-in and fourth was 130 and third was 160, that I'm going to try and win the tournament and say, you know what, if this hand gives me even a 5% edge, I'm going for it. But in this case, folding gives me 1 million US to fold one hand.
Crazy,
I'm folding,
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you were on the other side, you would have expected that you would have played, a different style of poker. And people who think that you are tight because they watched a couple main event table, you're far from tight. Like that's the thing. We pigeonhole people into what we think based on the small sample size we see in a situation that you're never going to see again, and that's, you kind of have now you have this built-in thing that you're kind of closer to Jumalan than you are to FBT that people who never watched you play have seen. So now you're going to get to play any tournament that you play in the future, and you're going to have this image that you are Ned when really you're the exact opposite, and you're going to be able to get away with so much crap. So it's kind of pretty cool that you you now have a different image than
The Alan Kessler image.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is, I mean, do you really think I got to day 6 by waiting for aces and kings? I mean, the difference is you're 100 and 200 blinds deep. And, you know, I can do the fancy play syndrome and the check raise bluffs on the river and stuff. You know, you just can't do it here. And getting more into what you said about pads and Jumala and stuff, like I don't want to say the easiest, but the stacks that have the most kind of freedom are the top stack and the bottom 2 stacks, because they're going all in, and they have the lowest ICM value, and the big stack can attack the second, third, fourth, fifth biggest stacks, because we have to outweight those stacks. And, you know, day 1 was real tough for me because no one was busting. You know, I had said to a lot of guys on my rail, I said, I really hope that the 9th and the 8th, they just go bang, bang. So right away, the pressure's off, you know, or I still have some chips I can play with once we get the 6-handed. And, you know, but the way that it was happening, nobody was busting. But you have to wait it out. And especially, you know, this was Bucky called me over a couple times that, you know, when we were 4 and 5-handed and 6-handed, he goes, Tizzle, like, you have 14 blinds. Okay. Jumalin has, you know, 200 blinds. You going to 28 blinds doesn't really help you win the tournament. But if you bust, you torch 3 pay jumps. You gotta play snug right now. And you know, good on him. Like, I already knew, but he just kept reinforcing it, you know, and because that's also the thing is in the main event, and I learned it finally. In the main event, 20 big blinds is like no other event. 20 big blinds in a 2-hour limits in the main event is heaps of chips. You know, you just look for that. Typically, if I get down to 20 big blinds in a tournament, you know, I get 20K and the blind's 500,000, and you know, it's a 1K on day 2, and I get the 2 7s under the gun. I'm not even thinking. I'm just ripping it. Like, let's go. I got to get some chips, you know. But in this thing, you can min raise, you can fold, you can like. There's just so many chips, you know, and yeah, such a different tournament.
Did you get to see the final hand between Jumalon and Saskalati at all?
I still have not watched it, but I heard a lot of.
We just want to, before we go, I mean, first off, we'll talk about this hand first, but I want to ask you a couple of questions after that. So basically, Jumalon has about 70 big blinds, 287 million. Saskalati's worked it up to 266 million. So they're quite close. Blinds are 2 million, 4 million. Jumalon has the queen of spades, the 5 of diamonds, and he limps on the button. Saskalati checks with the jack 3 of diamonds, jack 3 suited. So there's 12 million in there. The flop comes ace of spades, king of spades, 4 clubs. Saskalati checks. Jumalon bets 4 million. He's got the queen of spades. Saskalati calls with the jack 3. I guess thinking jack high is good at some point, or he's going to do something on the turn. The turn is the jack of spades. So he makes a pair, but also brings the 3 flush in. So now Jumalon has a royal flush draw here. He's got the queen of spades. So Saskalati checks. Jumalon bets 4 million, very small. Saskalati
he bet 40 million. He bet 2x pot.
Sorry, you're right. 40 million. Yeah, he bombs the turn. And Saskalati goes into the tank.
That's a Pat's play right there, by the way.
The overbet with the queen of spades. Yeah. And then calls. And then the river is the 6 of spades. So there's 4 spades out there. Jumalon has the nuts. And he shoves, right? I think he shoved, David, right?
No, he bet 180 million, which was like one point something pot. Like basically, it wasn't all in, but it was enough to leave him with basically enough to think that he might have some spin potential if he calls and is wrong. And if he calls and he's right, he basically wins the tournament, even though it's not officially over, but he basically does it. So the real question about this spot is, if you were in this spot and you were Saskalani, do you think that Jumalon is playing a more aggro, bluffy style, or do you think that he is totally aware of what you and maybe Saskalani and maybe some of the other players may have thought, having seen the ace 10 versus ace queen hand and some of the other bluffs and things that kind of led him to have the big chip lead that he had. What would be your assessment if you were in those shoes? Like, how much is he bluffing there? What's his, had you even discussed like potentially that, or you worry about the heads up, if you would have made it to day 3, or what would kind of be your thought there as Seskalani sitting on this situation where you essentially have nothing but a bluff catcher for the World Series main event?
Yeah. I don't like the call on the flop myself. I don't mind it so much on the turn. Not because he hit the jack. I think that there's a good amount of time he's ahead on he could have folded the jack there too. I mean, quite honestly, I just think it was the least bad. Like, the thing is, everyone's ripping him. And I think it was Scott Seaver that said it. If he would have barreled the river, if the river paired the board and wasn't a spade, and then Seskalani called, it would have been the greatest call in main event history. It's kind of, we're talking out of our ass because we don't know if Jumelin would have fired the third bullet or not. It's, there's just, I've sat in a situation one time. I was playing heads up in a heads up tournament in Calgary, and I was playing against, I think it was Gavin Smith, actually, rest in peace, old G Smith. And he made a big bet on the river, and I was like, the board was like 9-10, and I was convinced he had queen jack. Like, I was convinced of it. And I think it was 9-10-10 queen jack or something, and I came like deuce on a 3, and I think I had like ace 8 or something, and I was convinced he had queen jack, and I just had the blinders on, and I called, and he turned over quads, and I just, that was a bad read. And sometimes when you're in the heat of the battle, you have a read, you talk yourself into something, and from the outside, when we're sitting on the couch and we can see the cards and we're having our popcorn, and, oh my God, what a bad call, but they don't see that maybe Seskalani had a tell on him. Maybe, there's just so much that goes to the hand. And yeah, should he fold the river? Obviously, what can he really beat now? Like, I mean, nothing. But yeah, I don't know what was going on in his head. I don't know what would be going on in my head. The thing is, here's the crazy thing about, just on a side note, about pads and about how Bucky knows so much about poker. We never saw pads on the first day of the final table. He was, as it turns out, because somebody said they saw him and talked to him. I don't remember. Someone on my reel. He was sitting on the side. I
talked to him on day 1.
Yeah. Bucky had never seen him there, and I for sure never saw him, and I'm 90% sure Bucky didn't see him. But Bucky that night, while I was hitting, what's the burger joint that I was talking about?
Johnny Rockets.
Johnny Rockets. Well, I hit Johnny Rockets after day 1 and inhaled a bunch of carbs right before bed. When I went to sleep, Bucky came to Johnny Rockets too, don't worry. But afterwards, he went through a bunch of hands, and he told me the next day, he goes, God, Pads has to be coaching him the way he's playing some of these hands, these over bets. This is Pad style, like, 5Xing the small blind and doing the stuff like that, right? And I don't think he had saw him either. And so a lot of the style, like, Jumelin's a hell of a poker player, but I think Pads gave him the polishing he needed to play that big stack. And I think what went on there was, it was tricky sizing, where he, like Davey said, he 2X the turn with nothing, got there, and then 1.5X the river. And I'm kind of rambling on. I just don't really know I don't like to criticize Seskalani's call there, because we just don't know what was going on in his mind. And in a situation like that, he was just convinced that Jumelin was using his big stack to bully. And like we said, it would have been super interesting if the river was, deuce of diamonds or paired the board or something. What does he do? Does he shut it down? And he very well may have, but he might have made that bluff, and then Seskalani calls, and now we're talking about the greatest call in main event history. So I know a lot of people, obviously, you had Bucky, he's your friend, and he helped you, and you probably had some other people. How many of the final table people do you think hired outside coaches that they are not their best friends? They could just be friends or somewhat close, but
but actually went like outside and hired an Alex Foxen, a Chance, a Pads, a Brock Wilson. How many do you know? I know that Brewer had coached. I know he coached one, and I know Pads. But do you have any idea like how many of them actually went and got outside coaching?
I think I heard somewhere Brock had I don't know if it was via trade or coaching, but I heard somewhere he had other invested interest. We didn't reach out, but I just had heard somebody mention Brock. But yeah, it's crazy. We thought everybody would be getting coached. I don't know if Suscalati had anybody. I think Gags knows all the GTO spots pretty well. So, maybe he had a discussion with somebody, but I don't think he was certainly not employing a coach as far as I know, just because that's his style. He kind of knows all the GTO spots pretty well. And then, God, I'm so bad with the names. The super nice French guy to my right, seat 3.
Rami Hamoud?
Boos.
No, Boos.
Boos.
I don't think he did. And then I think maybe Jamie may. I don't like. I really don't think. Do you know?
Jamie put out on Twitter that Brewer helped him.
Okay, so Brewer helped him, and then Han. I mean, Han, I think believes in himself. Maybe he was involved with Brock. I don't know if Rami did much. Like, I really don't know, to be honest with you. I certainly don't think Eva had hired anybody. I know people were reaching out. But yeah, I think people maybe studied on their own or with other friends, but I was expecting to see a lot bigger names on the rail.
I was surprised Foxen and Chance weren't there.
Yeah.
But maybe they didn't want to. I know personally, if I decided to get coaching, I don't think I would want them there because I wouldn't want people playing me like I was Chance.
Yeah.
Because then it gets in my head, oh, he's playing me this way because he knows Chance coached me, and this is how he would play Chance and not ODB, and so I understand like maybe they were in the shadows.
That's above the rim though, Davey, I think, and I think people that would have had the Foxens coaching them would have taken advantage of the full experience, which would mean they would be there to, because maybe they're studying up on middling stacks. And as you know, chips move so fast. So like I'm a middling stack. Well, before you know it, I could be a short stack or the chip leader in seconds. And how much work can you get done in 2 weeks? So if I was getting coached by the Foxens, would I rather give up yep, you got me, the Foxens help me, but have the advantage that they're there and can continue to talk to me? I think I would take advantage of that. So I would tend to err on the side of there was less coaching than we thought.
Would you rather have had the final table the very next day or have the break?
You know what? I think for my advantage of knowing pressure situations, for my strictly poker success at the final table, I would have liked it to go on the next day. But for the fun and the rail and to give yourself a chance to maybe brand yourself or, for the ESPN and all the stuff, absolutely, the longer the better. Give everybody a chance to run the numbers and get more skilled. I don't care. The longer of a buildup, the better it is for everybody to, market, brand, prepare, have friends come down. 100 people wouldn't have been able to fly down the next day, and so I like the way they do it. It was a kind of an in between the November 9 thing. And I think you're walking on cloud 9 after you make the final table. So why not walk a little longer? So, that's, even though it might have hurt me in the sense that I think other people might have learned some exposure and got some rest. And I am a big fan of the break because you just accomplished something. Just like I wanted a break after making 3-handed. Same sort of thing, right? Give me a break. Let me regroup. Let me enjoy going on to day 3 of the final table, right?
One more Johnny Rockets.
I think I know the answer to this question, Mules, but is this going to change your life at all? Like, I know it hasn't sunk in yet. We talked about that. But if you had to bet, does this make you more interested in going to the World Series and playing 20, 30, 40, well, not 40, 20 or 30 events? Or does it make you just go down and play the main now?
I have no idea what my poker future holds. For those that know me, they know that I book a flight the same day if I'm going anywhere. I'm not known for my planning. But what it changes is I've noticed it, like even my sports betting and stuff, like since then, and I haven't increased my unit sizes, but I took a bad beat there. Like it's taken the pressure off where, like I was playing on the site there this morning. They got Taiwanese there. I think Davey was playing too. And 100 a point Taiwanese online can go pretty fast. And I'm down 10. I got to find a way to get, it's irritating. And now I'm up or down 5 or 10. It's just, it's changed in the sense that the comfort is definitely a lot more up there. Has it changed my life and who I am or what I do? Or not really, because I've always flown first class. I will continue to fly first class. I'm a big guy. I don't go to the club and take champagne and spray it around. I've always eaten Wagyu steaks. I always buy for buddies. We'll continue to, like, I'm the kind of the same. It's given me a bit more, maybe, what's the word comfort? What's the word I'm looking for?
Indifference to, yeah.
Not indifference. It makes, I don't need to, like, if I want to go play 300, 600 in little shits game, I'm still going to try and win. But if I lose 30 ball, rather than being frustrated to start my series down 30, it's not a big deal. Right?
Yeah. The difference is when we have dinner reservations, you're not like, you expect me to leave? I'm stuck. We're just like going to be like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And
I'm just glad you don't order the Wagyu steaks well done anymore. That's the big thing.
All I know is I'm expecting I don't want much from you. I've never asked for anything, but I just one round of Shadow. Let's go. Get in town.
Wait, 2
Let's
rounds
go.
of Shadow.
He's lining up for Shadow. Yeah, no, I would love to make that happen. Have maybe a little 2-man scramble or something, or a best ball or something. Get 20 of us poker/golf guys together and play a fun round at Shadow for sure.
Well,
Awesome.
I was just going to say, I know that you're busy. I know you're kind of podcasted out and you've done all the media tour and all that. I just want to thank you for coming on here and being with us. We've kept you a little longer than we had promised, but I just want to say that, like, I don't know, watching you this year is just, I give everything I have to the World Series. You know that I play hard, everything, but I don't know if I've necessarily given everything to the main the way that it deserves, because I give everything else in all of them. I don't necessarily maybe focus in as much on the main because I'm so busy kind of just always grinding that I think, like, you showing me, like, you know what, we can still get it done and we can still get there, and you need to give this tournament the due that it deserves, because I want to experience what you have. So I would thank you for coming on, and it was a pleasure to get to watch you and be a part of it. So thank you for having me and my wife and being on the show with us.
Pleasure, of course. And hey, and it'd be crazy to say let's do it again, because it's only Mark Newhouse is the type of guy that goes back to back. But it was if I could do it again, I would. It was such a fun run, and you know what? It's I now realize that somebody's got to get there, and it's possible. So why not Dave Baker next year?
Nice.
Let's play heads up. This time we can cheer.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Mules, thanks so much. Thanks, David. Thanks, Ross. Thanks to everybody out there for tuning in and listening on podcasts, and we will talk to you soon.
They'll keep it real, spill the gambler's creed for the ones who crave some action and a bit of greed. From Vegas nights to the sports book light, gamble up and take the ride.